In 1987, Virat had just been inducted into the Indian Navy, recommissioned after having been decommissioned as HMS Hermes from the Royal Navy. Within months of induction, the aircraft carrier battle group, according to allegations, was diverted and used as a taxi. Before we dive into this political debate, joining me on India First is Commander VK Jaitly, then Lieutenant Jaitley, the weapons maintenance officer on board INS Virat. Sir, welcome.
Thank
You
you.
were then you were then a young weapons officer on board Virat. What are your memories of your deployment around Lakshadweep Island and Rajiv Gandhi and family being there, sir?
My memories goes back to end December when Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and a few more people, they landed on INS Virat, stayed overnight on INS Virat. The room which is reserved for the flag officer was converted into a family room. Normally, we have single beds in every room. So that was converted into a family room. So obviously, a lot of expenditure on that also. They stayed overnight. And then they went to Bangaram Island. And Virat was not alone. Virat was sailing along with maybe around 8 or 9 more ships. And then, of course, a number of aircrafts also on board INS Virat. And when Virat used to sail for even one day, it costs a lot of money. And it
Yes.
was at Anchorage and going around a little bit for almost 8 or 9 days, if I remember correctly. So I think it was a great misuse of the national resources, the defense resources, naval resources for the holiday trip of around total 25 people around. I'm just making a guess of around 25.
Okay.
So
So
maybe
this
more.
wasn't operational deployment of Virat. As a weapons officer and as a young weapons officer, would you have known whether this was routine deployment around Lakshadweep at that time, or was Virat diverted because then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and his family were coming for a vacation, sir?
Virat was totally diverted for this particular mission of a holiday trip of the number one family of the country. I'm very sure about that. There were no exercises. Maybe minor sailing extra here, there could be there, quite possible. But the whole thing was fashioned or organized for their holiday trip. I'm very clear about that.
And this wasn't just INS Virat. I believe it had just been inducted as a newly inducted warship. Of course, after having been decommissioned as a Royal Navy aircraft carrier, all the
HMS
aircraft that were
Hermes.
HMS Hermes, Her Majesty's ship Hermes. Sir, would all the aircraft carriers, battle group components, destroyers, frigates, submarine, tankers, hepters, would they be already exercising together? Were they meshing in together? Were they getting to know each other? And was this a diversion from that into a family vacation, let's say if it was for 10 days or more?
See, the ship came from UK, if I remember correctly, exactly on 17th September 1987. And this holiday trip happened somewhere on 28th December 1987. So during this period also, INS Virat was quite busy doing exercises with many other ships. So this period of around 8 to 10 days, whatever it was, obviously it was disturbance for the normal routine jobs of the ship and the Navy. Every resources, all resources were diverted for this particular job. And those days we were young lieutenant, we felt, oh, fine, good, Prime Minister's here on the ship. We were very happy, in fact, to be very frank. But later on, when we look back, we say, oh my God, it was a misuse, great misuse of the national resources. So, which shouldn't have happened. But fact is, those days it did happen.
So why was the Virat diverted in your view? What was it being used for? Why was an aircraft carrier battle group required if they were vacationing on the Bangaram Island?
The sailing on Virat was a very prestigious thing those days. It had just come, the biggest ship of the Indian Navy that time, and just came from UK. Everybody wanted to come on board, and they wanted to, in fact, stay overnight, and they stayed overnight. They sailed overnight. That's what I said. The Flag officers' cabin was converted
Yes.
into a family cabin. Again, a lot of resources were used. And let me tell you, the preparation started almost 1 month before for their visit, at least 1 month, because we were part of making those arrangements on the ship also. Ki isko change karo, do this, do that. So all those things were there. And when they were holidaying also, कभी एयरक्राफ्ट में बियर जा रही है, कभी चिकन जा रहा है, whole day they were doing sorties from the ships. So whatever they wanted, it was at their beck and call after the Prime Minister of India. So it was their, like a personal navy.
Am I to understand, sir? Are you saying that the halos, the hepters, the helicopters, the Chetaks, were being used to ferry beer and chicken to the island from the galley of the ship?
Yes, sir, very much, very much. I do remember very categorically, let me tell you. And if somebody denies that, I'll say they are telling lies.
And the ship, I'm told, has a very well-stocked bar. I've had the privilege of
Of course,
sailing
of
on
course.
board INS Virat a couple of times.
Yes, very well stocked. Virat was a very big ship with around 1,500 crew on the ship. So obviously our bar was also very well equipped with foreign liquors and everything. So even that was at their disposal. After all, the Prime Minister of India.
And his
And those
foreign
the Prime
guests and his
Minister.
and I believe there was a very famous film star and family and others. So the ship's galley, the ship's kitchen was actually serving food to the VVIP guests, and helicopters were ferrying it to the island.
Yes. Now, how much it was being served from the galley of the ship, I'm not very much aware. But when they stayed overnight, Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, both of them together, there were a few more guests, maybe 5 to 10. But on the Bangaram Island, there were many people who reached directly there on the island. Like the film hero you were talking about, they didn't come on the ship, they went directly to the island. So many people went directly to the island, and some sailed on the ship. They came from, I think, Trivandrum by a hello, landed on the ship, and then the ship sailed towards Bangaram. And then when it was near at the anchorage, from there again they flew in a helicopter and landed at the island.
Sir, would you want to hazard a guess what would have been the cost of such deployment then? The aircraft carrier, like you said, has more than 1,500 sailors on board, and if the Prime Minister was on board, the tanker, the aircraft carrier battle group, the submarines, additional halos coming in, additional resources coming in, what would have been the cost?
It will be, it's a very wild guess, will be hundreds of crores per day. Hundreds of crores per day. Because the fuel itself it consumes is huge. And again, not one ship, so many ships. And if you calculate the cost of the naval personnel who are deployed on these 8 to 10 ships, the cost will go much higher, much higher. It was
Just
definitely a total misuse of national resources.
Sir, and when you look at what's happening currently, the Prime Minister's day at sea, or the Prime Minister spending Deepavali with troops on board INS Vikrant, there are some who say that the Prime Minister doesn't have a family, so what would he do? He would spend time with sailors. What impact does that have on the morale of sailors or airmen or troops when he spends every Diwali with them?
See, there's a marked difference with the current Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of those days. The current Prime Minister has been celebrating all his Diwalis since 2014 with the troops. Starting from Siachen Glacier, the first one which he celebrated in 2014, the highest battlefield in the world. And this time he celebrated with the naval sailors, because all the earlier celebrations, mainly they were with the Army, ITBP, BSF, and those. Except one which was in the Gujarat Kutch area, Creek. There some naval people had joined, but mainly it was mainly with the army. So this time he decided to celebrate with the naval people on INS Vikrant. I'll say the morale of the sailors, officers, everybody goes very high when the Prime Minister of India himself with his own hands feeds the sweets in the mouth of some of the sailors, the junior most.
Yes.
Just imagine, they would have never thought that they will be meeting the Prime Minister of India. It's a great gesture, I will say. Great gesture.